My worry is people not knowing how to evaluate land and then just trying to make money on any piece they can get under contract.
You got to qualify the seller and qualify the land fast, and then you got to negotiate.
Don't be scared of the conversation. I think that's the biggest thing. It's like you see so many non-sales people like who are scared to have these conversations. The most successful people in our community are double closing.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today's topic, we're talking about high-ticket double closing. What high-ticket double closing is, we're going to get into all the details here. It's one of the best ways. We did a episode recently on the top 4 niches, and we listed out about 15, Ron, 20, and we narrowed it down to top 4. This was our number 2. Our number 1 was minor subdivisions, and the reasons you can listen to that podcast back. But this was number 2, and this is one of my favorite methods and niches within real estate.
Yeah, I mean, I love this strategy. It's something that I don't want to say has organically come about, but it's definitely something you see these giant deals these people are making a ton of money on. And this is, I don't know if this is the most common one that people are making 100K plus, but it's definitely one of the more common ones.
I agree. I mean, it's, but we're going to get into all the specifics, so I'm not going to dive into the meat right now. But let's go, first, let's just give a definition for it, Ron.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a double close where you're making over $100,000 essentially. I think when it's a $200,000 plus purchase price.
I don't think it needs to be over 100 though.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're talking. No, you're right. Actually, I agree. I think it's more about the purchase price being $200,000-$300,000 plus. I don't
acquisition price over
acquisition price. So you buy for 200, sell for 280.
Yes.
I agree with you as far as not having a set amount of profit on it, but it's that purchase price. It's not where you're buying for $20,000, double closing for $30,000. Like that's great, making $10,000. But these higher ticket ones, you're providing a little more value to the seller. You're getting the seller a ton of money, and that's why I love this strategy.
Yeah. So let's talk about it a little bit. Then what's like an average high ticket double closing deal?
I think probably that, honestly. Buy for 200, sell for 270, 280, buy for 250, sell for 330.
Doesn't even need to be that though. It can be buy for 200, sell for 240.
Yeah, it can. I more so care about the project. Like I don't know if you get into those deals with an expected sale price of like 230, 240, and then you lose, and then it goes to 220, and then like there's nothing really being made. Not $20,000.
You just talked about 10 grand making though.
For sure.
But I think there's other benefits here when you take those smaller margins that you're going to have versus, buy for 50, sell for 70, 80. Even though it's the same profit, you can make a lot more in these in general. That's a small margin. Buy for 200, sell for 230 for high ticket double closing. That's the low end. The average end's probably buy for 200, sell for 280 to 300, because then you're at 70% market value, whatever it is, Ron. And that's one of the main advantages of going there is the being able to trickle it up. But I think average, buy for 150, sell for 200. I see those a lot. But then you get the ones, what was Casey's?
Casey's turned out to not be a double close. He wanted to double close, but it was like a buy for 290 and sell for 580, 590, I believe what it is.
Are you
what
sure
it
it wasn't? It sounded like he used it for transactional funding his money.
I don't know if he did, honestly, but I believe he was a coaching student. So he started with the crazy thing with Casey is he started in September. We'll get him on the podcast eventually. He started September 9th and he had a $300,000 deal by December 13th or something like that. Might have been before that. I think it was within 3 months. Yeah, $300,000.
This is cash in pocket. The check at the end, it was 286 or something.
It was buy for 290, sell for like 580, and then after closing costs and stuff. So yeah, I mean,
that works for all scenarios. You can double close that. You can buy it. You can whatever. You can do anything with those margins.
I know initially his goal was to double close it. I don't know if he eventually had money or got it financed or whatever the situation was. But I know his goal was to double close it. But that is the power of it, without a doubt. Those are deals we don't really push you to double close. If it's buy for 500, sell for 700, that's different where you make $200,000. But with buy for 280, sell for 580, 590.
Before we get back to the show, guys, make sure to leave us a comment and hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications. Ron and I read through every single comment individually. It helps us plan our 2025, our topics, what you guys want to hear, and helps us improve the show. It means a lot, guys, and let's get back to the show.
You should be getting funding your whatever that looks like, finding some financing. So
it depends your strategy though. If you're putting in $20,000 of hard earnest with the lawyer and stuff, you're not going to lose it.
Yeah,
you can't lose it.
No.
So, I mean, it just depends your business model, I think. But there's then it gets tricky on the sell side too. So there's definitely advantages of buying it, and it's actually yours at the time and relisting it. But I want to go into some of the advantages of high ticket double closing, because I think that's where it really separates itself. So obviously we're talking about insane profit margins here, probably average 60, 70 grand of profit, I'd guess. We don't have a lot of data because high ticket double closing is so new. And if we looked at the data now, it would probably be a lot over that because of people like Casey's and those scenarios, Ron. But there's so many, I think there's so much room for buy for 200, sell for 250 also.
Yeah.
Which is 50 grand right there. But let's go into the advantages.
I think we should also talk, Dan, a little bit about, before we get into that, about the difference between this and like wholesaling. Because I think a lot of people think
similar.
like
It is a type of
similar, but wholesalers, you have like a baked in end buyer a lot of time. Your end buyer is typically an investor. Like we are looking for, when we're doing high ticket double closing, we're posting on the MLS. We are posting on the MLS.
Yeah.
So like you are looking for the end buyer. I just want to make sure that's clear for everyone. As far as like exactly what it is.
Yeah.
This isn't wholesaling. Can it be?
It is
similar?
wholesaling, I think. It's a form.
But there's no assignment also. I feel like wholesaling a lot of times has an assignment. This is multiple transactions in a day.
It is. That's why it's a little separate. But I think, yes. So the main difference Ron's saying is one, so when you're wholesaling, you're just assigning it to a builder or a set buyer or your buyer's list, essentially. It's like if you're wholesaling houses, I'm on a bunch of wholesale lists.
You're getting a finder's
houses.
fee.
You get a yeah. So they'll shoot you a wholesaler if you have an investor's list, and then you try to acquire, and then you acquire, and then you send it to your investor's list and try to line it up. So I get a bunch of emails saying new opportunity, Pleasant Ridge, Cincinnati, Ohio, $320,000 purchase price, after rehab value $420, amount of rehab needed 50 grand, profit potential, boom, long-term hold, rental, all the information in there. And then I look at it, and if it makes sense, you can go and negotiate. You don't know how much wiggle room they have. You will. That's the disadvantage of it. When you close, you'll see the assignment they make. That's one of the major disadvantages of wholesaling versus double closing. When you're double closing, you are going into two transactions at once. So you're buying it, boom, comes over, and then you're selling it. They're not going to see an assignment. You disclose an assignment on when you're traditional wholesaling, which is one of the major disadvantages of it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And okay, what did you want to get to after that, Dan?
Yeah, I forgot my point there, but the point was there are some big differences with wholesaling. But I kind of, in my mind, I consider it as a wholesale option because of you can buy it for a lot more than if you're just traditional flipping it. But all right, so yeah, I just want to talk about the advantages, and that's the number one of it, and you can go into that.
Yeah, I think the biggest advantage, or one of the biggest advantages, is you don't need money out of your pocket. Like the minimal amount of money out of your pocket, it's just finding the deal. However you find the deal, like you can do it cold calling, you can do it texting, you can do it emailing, you can do it, probably find some of these on the MLS potentially. But that's the biggest thing in my mind, Dan, is you do not need really money out of your pocket. For some situations, we can talk about transactional funding. You don't always need transactional funding, but the lack of money out of your pocket is, I think, the number one thing for this strategy. You have such a high potential profit, and you are in complete control of the deal.
Yeah, there's a lot of trade-offs with it, I think, because obviously the main advantage is there's no risk without money in your pocket, and you can take tighter margins where you can't get bank loans, friends and family, traditional funding, things like that. So it's the risk, but there's a trade-off because the disadvantage is it takes longer and it's more risk to the seller. So essentially you're putting the risk on the seller, right? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. You're going and you're putting risk on the seller because now their trust is in you. You have 120 days to sell it. They don't know if they're going to get the money. You know, it's not an assignment, but it's a double close. So it's a lot different than if you're just buying it and then flipping it right away. That's where lower offers, 50% of market value for traditional flips makes sense. So it's like anything. There's going to be buyers, or there's going to be sellers that fit into this category, and there's going to be sellers that fit into buy and flip categories. And that's why I like to really bounce them off each other. High ticket double closing is a little bit different because you're specifically targeting properties with zero competition. High ticket double closing has virtually zero competition.
That's if you're targeting, though. You also have where you offer 50% and they negotiate you up.
Correct. Which we'll talk about both. We'll talk about in this episode targeting high ticket double closings, which I love, or targeting buy and flips for 50% of market value, and then seller calls you back, hey, I can't sell this for $150,000. I need $200,000. I bought this in 1999 for $200,000 and it's worth $300,000. All right, I'm not going to get funding for that. Let's talk about a double close. You want more money? I can buy it in cash for $150,000. You want $200,000? Let's get into a double closing agreement. get an attorney in fact, get all that stuff, and then give me 120 days, and I'll get you that 200.
Mhm.
So I think you balance them off each other.
Yeah, I agree. I think targeting them can be, and this is what we talked about. If you didn't listen to our niche episode, it's on audio. Yeah, I think targeting them could be huge for sure. You can probably do 2 or 3 of these deals a month, I would think, and make $3-4 million, I'd imagine, just doing this
Sky's
strategy.
the limit.
Because there's never not land out there for this strategy. There's always $400,000 land that you can get for 320, for 300. Like those deals. And like those deals are always there. They don't need to pay realtors in this situation. Like they have more assurance, I think, and it's easier process for them with it, where they don't have to talk to realtors. Yeah, I think it's a high profit potential business.
And that's my favorite is like when you get in those higher dollar ranges, like 400,000 sell for 500, you're looking at a 6-figure profit with no money out. Like those, and there's nobody. And then the higher you go, the more margin you have in the deal with staying very close to market value, essentially, if that makes sense. So you have a $500,000 market value property. You offer 400 for a double close. You have $100,000 of profit, Ron, but that's 80% of market value. And let's compare that. Like, okay, that $500,000 property that I'm going to buy and sell, if that seller goes on the market and tries to find a realtor, let's talk about that sequence, because this is where the value is. 80%, 85%, 80%. That's almost like putting it on the market after realtor fees, closing cost, time on the market, all these other things that need to fall into play.
Yeah, for sure. When you talk about the realtor cost, when you're selling a property for $500,000, if that's what they're trying to get, versus taking 400 from you, like they're going to have 10% realtor fees, very, very normal percentage for land, closing costs, all these things. They're not,
and risk of it not selling.
Yeah, risk of it not
and
selling.
The price dropping.
There is still risk though when they come with a double closer, with an investor like us that we couldn't sell it to, and they don't get the money.
Yeah, but we know the money they're going to get.
Yeah, we guarantee.
It's a set cost. We're just saying 400, so I can sell at 430, make 30, and they're going to get their 400. So it doesn't matter what I sell it at.
That's why I like it so much. Like you get paid what you perform on the back end. Obviously, negotiate, make sure you got to make sure you can evaluate the price on the front end. It's really important where you're not like, and I think that's where people go wrong. I worry about the future of this because people getting into it and they don't know how to evaluate land, and then they're just getting something under contract and trying to do it. That's what went wrong. It's going
to get a bad rep fast if you guys do that.
That scares me. Like that part really scares me about the future, the legalities, like them making laws against this kind of stuff. Them considering
they can't make laws against this.
They can consider it brokering. Yes, they can. Like as far as like these attorney in fact, it's not being as solid where you can post on the MLS. Like the MLS can do a lot.
MLS.
Yeah. But yeah, as far as I don't know, as far as you're getting an attorney in fact, so you are like you have the power of attorney to sell their property.
It's hard. That's why that's an advantage of double closing.
Yeah. You have a ton of power to be able to sell the property.
Because you're taking it in your name.
Yeah. But my worry, like I was going back to that, my worry is people not knowing how to evaluate land and then just trying to make money on any piece they can get under contract.
Yeah. No,
and
I
you
agree.
overpromise sellers.
Well, that's like wholesalers.
That's what I'm saying. That's why
you look at my inbox, Ron,
on
on these wholesalers, especially for the land wholesaler.
Oh, they're horrible.
They'll give me an address and it'll say 0 on it. I'm like, and they won't give me an APN, and it'll be like 0, Willingworth Way, Las Vegas, Nevada. And you type it in and it just brings you to the block. There's no parcel number on it. There's no latitude line. There's no way for you to find it. It tells you the acreage, tells you what it's worth. And then you actually find the property, and then there's telling you after, what the cost is $400,000, and you look at it, you're like,
yeah,
there is nothing at all. 400. This property is also in a flood zone and it's wet. And they're just like, that's when wholesaling, you're just providing no value to anyone.
Yeah. And that's when it can get like, there's bad seeds in every industry, I think, but that's when it can get a really, really bad name. When you're screwing over sellers, that's when there's gonna be a lot of frustration. Sellers start counting the money that you're gonna not pay them, essentially, because you're not gonna make it happen. That's when things get bad, in my opinion. I feel bad for the sellers getting locked in those contracts, because they really got to understand, like, who are they talking to? Are they talking to us or one of our top students who like knows how to evaluate land? They're promising $300,000. Then they have another call from someone else trying to do the same thing at 400, and there's no margin in there for them. So I think that's when, like, I don't know. Like, I don't think that many people that don't understand the business will go after this size property in terms of land, in terms of high ticket double closing.
Oh, they will. I get them.
Yeah.
They not a lot. A lot are scared of it, but when there's no risk out, you start attracting people who just want to make a quick buck and not put in the work, and it gets bad quick.
Yeah.
That's a good worry. I'm glad you brought that up.
You still have to market, guys. Like, there are some costs. So you need to put earnest money down. Legally, you need to put earnest money down to be able to hold it. You still need to get marketing pictures. You got to market it in different places that can cost money. So it's not like it's $0 out of your pocket, but as far as buying the property, it's $0 out of your pocket. So it's not like you can just get in and flip it like some of these people do with houses, and they post on Facebook and try to make $500.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, well then let's talk about next how we target these properties.
Yeah, I mean,
I know we talked about going after buying flips
Yeah.
and then negotiating on that end. But let's talk about for the people who just want to go after double closing.
yeah, I mean, you find a data source. We prefer the land portal. We made the land portal for this kind of stuff where you're looking for non-landlocked properties. You want to look. So when you're choosing an area, not even an area, you chose an area. And then you want to look at like prices, and then that's when you determine like, okay, what acreage range am I going to look for? If like I want market value to be, I don't know, $250,000 plus, and I want to offer 80%, something like that, where you have 75%, maybe I'll probably like that number a little more, where you're offering 75%. And then you just go up the acreage essentially and just keep going up in the acreage. So you find out the acreage, like your bottom dollar that you want to offer in terms of market value. Okay, what is that acreage in that area? And then you just go up the acreage from there.
Yeah.
Some areas it might be 10 acres. Other areas it might be 60 acres.
Yeah. And originally when I asked you that question, I meant more about from a marketing strategy.
Got it.
But this is market selection, which is people are going to like in general. So we can stay on this. In terms, so you figure out your acreage. Or am I going to do a blind offer, neutral text, or like one strategy that I see a lot of successful people once they have experience do is do more neutral approaches for this. Not for everything, guys. For this specific strategy, because there's a lot of negotiation room when you have no money out of your pocket.
True.
So like when you don't have risk, when you have risk out, you got to be stern on the price, and it's like I can't get funding over this. You know what I mean? That by risk I mean money when you need funding. So I think the difference with this is you can create a neutral approach, test a lot of different things out, but create a neutral approach, try to get them on the phones. And the best people here, you got to qualify the seller and qualify the land fast. And then you got to negotiate. It's going to be more time on the phones. It's going to be in general, more time doing due diligence on properties before you actually put you know what I mean? There's just going to be more opportunities, which lead to a little bit more time, but the profit and everything makes a lot of sense for that.
Yeah, the profit, the lack of risk for sure.
Really no different than texting.
Yeah, I like blind offers for this too, to be honest with you. Like I think you'll get a ton of deals.
I do too.
Neutral can definitely do well.
Blind offers do great for subdivides, and it's no different than that.
Follow-up text, all that stuff. Like you have to have a multiple faceted marketing approach like we always talk about. To get these more efficiently. But you could just do blind offers and build a really good business around just this niche. But yeah, pick a market, pick the price range you go, pull the data, send the mail, send the text, everything like that. I don't think that much changes. You might, if you're doing an offer price, like you might want to explain what you're doing. Like if you're doing a blind offer and you're at 75%, like you might want to exxplain like, okay, you're not going to get your money in 14 days. You know what I'm saying? It's in 90 days.
Yeah, change your, definitely.
Yeah, definitely change your letter, the messaging.
Yes, that's a good point. Because that's going to change who's interested too when they see that rather than 14 in a bad way.
What's the conversation look like, Dan? I think that is probably around double closing. It usually comes from non-salespeople or people like the people who know how to have these conversations are the people coming from wholesaling.
Yeah.
The people who have had hundreds of these conversations pitching this thing. Let's like the conversation where I think it's an easier conversation when you offer 50% and like you're like, okay, I can't do they ask for 70% of market value. So $50,000 offer, they're asking for 70,000. Like, okay, I can't do 50,000 or 70,000 within 2 weeks. I can get you that in 90 days. I think that's an easier conversation than like, okay, you're just offering 75%. You got to explain like, okay, you got to sign this attorney. In fact, you got to do this and this.
Yeah, it's just a little explanation. I don't think once you do 10 to 20 of them, I think you'll be in the right mindset for it. That's like a common question at first for people who don't understand how to approach it. But I think after you have a few, you want to be blunt, you want to be direct, and you don't want to hide things is my advice. You know, and then you'll get comfortable with it and they'll understand the value in what you're doing. And then, you know, I don't think there's too much to it, but I do understand that's the Most asked question, Ron.
Don't be scared of the conversation. I think that's the biggest thing. It's like you see so many non-salespeople like who are scared to have these conversations. And I'm more so talking about people who aren't targeting this as a niche, people who are trying to buy at 40, 45% of market value. And the seller says, no, I want X dollars. And they're scared to talk about that double closing option. The most successful people in our community are double closing without a doubt. I'm not saying 100%. The most successful people are not double closing even 50% of their deals, but they are 100% making that an option for sellers if the seller is not going for their initial offer.
That makes sense.
Like that is the biggest thing I think for a lot of people and how people are making. Morgan was one who made a 50,000. It was like a buy for 140, sell for like 190, 185.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah, that was like one of her first land deals, I think, with only cold texting
and no phone call.
100%. Yeah, she did this all over texting. So yeah, I think just being willing to have those conversations and pitching it, you can make a lot of money with very little out of your pocket.
I agree. I think we covered the marketing behind it. We covered the pros and cons. We covered what it is. I think we're good. Do you have anything else?
No, I mean, if you guys, I'm not saying go after this strategy in general, but having this in your pocket, having high ticket double closing in your pocket as you target bigger properties in 2025 is definitely a huge, huge thing. Other than that, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button below. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, leave us a review, share this with a friend. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining, guys. As always, thank you for joining. Please do us a huge favor and like and subscribe our YouTube channel and share this with a friend. It really means the world to Ron and I, but more importantly, it could help change the life of someone else. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next episode.